the faculty at CMU on robotics in 1980. He's taught a number of computer security courses in the School of Computer Science since then. Around 2002, Bob joined Seagate Research, where he became the chief technologist. And he is widely credited as being the inventor of self-encrypting drives, which you now can find in a large number of systems. After Seagate Research, Bob joined Wave, which is a company producing self-encrypting drives for a large number of customers, including the Department of Defense. But what Bob is going to talk about today is his hobby. And his current hobby is user authentication and how to refactor it. So Bob.
Thanks. Are you picking me up there? Okay, good. So Virgil described this correctly, and this is something I got interested in back in 2008. And I have a friend in Palo Alto who funds my side professions, and so this is something that's I've been working on since about 2008. And of course, the problem that we've got with user authentication is that it's almost a complete total mess, and it's widely regarded correctly as a failure. This is a sort of a recent comic on this stuff. But this is a picture of under a bridge in Sharpsburg. So I have an office building in Sharpsburg that sort of shows the best that user authentication has become. Okay, so all of those are access controls, and then you guess what you do to get through all those places and so forth and so on. Who knows? So this is also on the bridge over there, and so this is this talk. It says, kind of look here. There's some interesting stuff to think about other ways of viewing user authentication. And I'm going to sort of go through that and give you all a feel for that. And I call this completely refactoring user authentication. I'm using the word factoring as a programmer uses refactoring, okay, but it also mixes up with other things in normal authentication. So I'm going to play with the term refactoring, and I'm going to show you exactly what I intend to refactor, and then I'm going to show you what comes out of that refactoring from the point of view of an interesting area to study. So as everybody, or most everybody here knows, there are three factor types sort of in user authentication. There's the what you know, the proof of knowledge, what you are, the proof of physical presence, and what you have, proof of ownership. And generally speaking, when people learn about user authentication, they say these are the three factor types. Most people don't mention it, but in the what you know space, a username is something that you're typically expected to know, okay, to log in. What you are, fingerprint and face recognition, and what you have, proof of ownership, and so forth and so on. So you can notice that you can count lots of factors all the time. So you could have two what you knows. You could have a password and a picture that you selected, and those would be two factors that are what you know factor. And then there's this, is your username a factor? And I think it plainly is, okay. There are many cases of two what you are's, two what you have's. You could have 3, 4. So typically you can look at a user authentication problem and you can say, oh, well, there are really 5 factors here, okay, or there are really 2 factors here, there are really 6 factors here. You can, depending on how you analyze how somebody's doing user authentication, you might have a number of factors. In general, people look at evaluating the goodness of a factor, and a common way of doing this is sort of entropy, which is how many tries to guess the password, fingerprint, indicia, the serial number of the laptop, the private key, or whatever. There's a concept of weighted entropy, and of course password crackers use this. They say, well, we'll guess these passwords first, okay, and we're likely to hit them because there's actually a weighted entropy function sitting around. And then there are the sort of assumption violations, which are weighting problems. So, how do you weight the fact that the guy might have written his password on a sheet of paper and stuck it underneath his laptop? Okay, that pretty much destroys any entropy of a very good password. So how do you turn that into a weighting problem? And it's just kind of hard to do it. So evaluating factors is not an exact science by any stretch of the imagination. And there are other sort of approaches to evaluating factors, but this generally gives you the nature of the problem, the nature of the problem in understanding how to evaluate how good a factor is. Well, what's wrong with the overall picture? It's, in my humble opinion, there are no system standards worth a flip that helps the users. Okay, you can't say all bank websites use the Ruby standard, whatever that is. I'm just made up Ruby. Okay, it would be nice if NIST published a system standard and said this is called Ruby, and the federal government says if you are a bank online, you must use the Ruby standard. That would be really nice, because then the rules on logging into any bank would be the same. Okay. That does not exist. It's interesting that NIST's program today, their biggest program today is the NSTIC program. It is not seeking such standards. IETF, FIDO, SAML are not system standards, they're component standards. And then we have the problem that this sort of mess has created, which is that people want to get rid of passwords. So they say, we're going to get rid of passwords. There's a problem with that. You might get rid of passwords, but I don't think you can get rid of proofs of knowledge. The people who control access want to know if it's really you, not somebody with your smart card, not somebody with your finger, but somebody with your living brain. So I decided for the last 6 years to focus only on proofs of knowledge, and I call them POCs for short, and to see where this takes us. And not that the other things are bad to study. Okay, I mean, I'm a hard believer in smart cards technology, for example, but I find this an entertaining area to look at, and I find it more entertaining the more I get into it. So the sort of the usual proofs of knowledge that are time tested is things like a text password, a secret handshake. If you can do the secret handshake, you get in. What's your wife's birthday? What's your favorite pet's name? All this stuff. In Sentry Duty, of course, this has been around for thousands of years, or at least 2,000. A challenge with a response known only to friends. That's an old Roman thing. World War II, knowledge of baseball was sometimes used to identify real Americans in the field, and so forth and so on. These are all proofs of knowledge. So what I want to do is describe the refactoring that I want to do directly, okay, and just tell you what it is up front so that you know exactly the refactoring that we're doing, okay. And what we've noticed is that people tend to believe that usernames and passwords are part of the same thing. Okay, you say to somebody, I'm studying proofs of knowledge, and immediately they say, you must be studying logging in. And I go, no, that's a username and a password. Okay, I am not studying the username. Okay, in fact, I want to split these things apart. I want to completely refactor the problem and put absolute privacy between the username, the knowledge of who you are, and the proofs of knowledge that you show. Okay, and see what comes out of that. So the stuff that I've been doing basically says, let's refactor usernames and passwords and separate the two and have usernames be one domain of things to do, proofs of knowledge another, and we do proofs of knowledge in complete anonymity, where the person who's performing the proof of knowledge is not known by the proof of knowledge supplier. Okay, and the person relying on the proof of knowledge is not known by the does not know, the person relying on the proof of knowledge does not know the test that was actually run and has no access to it. So if you separate these two things, what happens that turns out to be really interesting is this turns into a much larger and more interesting space. That's what I want to go into and give you all sort of a feeling about it. So some of y'all who know me here, what I do is I build systems, I build widgets. And so my way of studying this was to build a system. Okay. And it's on the web. It's called KAJE, which is so KAJE was a mistype of the word lake. I had my finger on the keyboard wrong, and I looked at it and I said, "This is a good word," and so I decided to use it. Okay, and then KAJE has this wonderful property of KAJE and shrewd, crafty, or tricky, and so forth and so on. But what this thing is that got built is basically a universal publishing platform for proofs of knowledge. Okay, and that turns into an interesting exercise to try to figure out what that is. Where we don't know, the KAJE thing doesn't know who you are, and where the relying party doesn't know what you know. You keep the two things completely separate. So what we built initially was a picture password system that turned out to be very similar to Microsoft's picture password for Windows 8. We had no idea that Microsoft was building. This has been on the Apple App Store since probably 2010. Okay, and it's disguised. If you type KAJE on the App Store for an iPad, you can get the app. Okay, and it was the original of this. It hasn't changed in probably 2.5, 3 years. But we worked out a lot of the details, but it predated Windows 8. We had no idea, and it turned out that Microsoft was building something that was virtually identical. We also developed, as part of this platform, a way of doing text passwords that is unique and I think is okay. And it's soon to be released, and I'll show you all a demonstration of that in a minute. And of course, there's a lot of others. Jeremiah is here. There's the gotcha and sharing sets. I think sharing sets is the right way to describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then at the end of the talk, I'm going to talk about other human, what I call advanced capability testing. That if that privacy stuff was not there, if you weren't given the guarantees of the privacy, you could not possibly do this other testing that you'd like to do. So this is the essence of the way the system operates. There's a relying party. There's a SaaS service, which is essentially on a separate server. Okay. The user browser communicates to the relying party with HTTPS. The relying party redirects if the relying party gets the user to push the button and say, I want to use my KAJE proof of knowledge, redirects to the SaaS service, which then produces the next page that the user sees. And of course, the secrecy is that essentially the username is to this KAJE SaaS service is a big random number, doesn't have a clue who it is. Okay. And sort of the ID ecosystem, or the NSTIC speak, we can never really tell, we don't really care whether the invocation of our SaaS service is an identity provider or a relying party. So we just generally call whatever this is that's requesting us a requesting party. And that's very much like OAuth and UMA and some of the other ones that use the same terminology. This is pretty much what I just described, which is the user goes to his favorite RQP to present his identity, his username. It's the KAJE POC option. The RQP redirects to KAJE. The KAJE performs the POC tests. And then the KAJE provides the POC token back. And what turns out, another little interesting feature of this thing is what you wind up being able to return to the RQP if there's perfect privacy. So what I'm going to do is do a quick, so I'm not going to do all the gory demo of this stuff. I'm just going to show you the shallow thing. The first time the user uploads and selects a picture, draws on the picture. This is Windows 8, just like Windows 8. Returning, the user recognizes the picture, shooting, this is not a phishing attack. Repeats the original actions to prove knowledge. And then both the website and the user have increased security and confidence, and I can show you how that works in a second. And this system actually will work on PCs, tablets, phones. Unlike Windows password, this will work on an iPhone. It'll work on an Android phone. It works on tablets. It works on PCs, Linux machines, Macs. So by separating, one of the features of just sort of separating out the proof of knowledge from the user knowledge is it's really hard for an attacker to get to both of the databases and then correlate them. So you don't have the situation where somebody comes in and grabs all the username and passwords, and then the relying party has to send email out to 40 million people and say, change your passwords. That just goes away. Okay. So what I want to do before I do that, let's bring up sort of a demonstration of this thing. So this, as usual, is live. And y'all, how many of y'all don't know what this picture is? I'm assuming, okay. So I really like, this is a great password picture, okay. first of all, what's my password? Well, you know. Second, this is the first picture on the ground of a comet, and it looks like you've got a big, mean monster standing there, okay, looking over you. And so it's just an absolutely wonderful picture. And if I can do this right, I just logged in. So that's picture password. Obviously, I got this picture this morning. Obviously, I remembered the password. That's picture password. Okay. So text passwords are a little bit different. And we did this on essentially the disk drives that I built, which so any of the disk drives will take many passwords. So I think the standard is one of the disk drives will take any of 32 passwords. And part of the reason for that is, from an entropy point of view, if you've got fairly strong passwords, you can take several of them, okay, and let a person just use any of the ones that he remembers, okay. And as long as the worst one, the least good password is strong enough, okay, then if there's enough entropy sitting there, you're probably good to go, okay. You don't mind the fact that there's 5 or 6 passwords set for access to a system. So what I'm going to do is sort of demonstrate that. But to do that one, I'm going to actually enter a new password. I'm going to actually enter 3 of them. And so I've now told the system that there are 3 passwords, and it's asking me to confirm them. Did I miss one? Yeah, I think I missed one. That last one, I got it wrong. These are passwords that you remember? These are passwords that I commonly use, and I know them all to be strong. And so this thing is basically saying that under the administrator control, the administrator can say, allow the guy to get up to 6 passwords. They all must have this strength. And then he can have them. Okay. And now all of a sudden he doesn't have to remember which password he used for that website. And so this logged in. Now if I go to that password, so I was setting up the 3 I was setting up 3 passwords, and now I'm just going to use one of them. And I'm in. So that's the exact example. First I set up several passwords for a site, and I just used one of them. And now I don't have to remember which password I used for that site. I can come back 6 months later I'll use one of the passwords I use, okay, and I don't have to remember which one I use for that site. And I think that there's, so as long as the administrator has control of that, okay, there are lots of situations where that's not a bad idea because it lets the guy get in with whatever he needs to get in as long as the strength measure's good. So the next discussion is really this idea of once you create the privacy between the proofs of knowledge and the relying parties, okay, then you get into some really interesting cases of advanced proofs of knowledge. And we'll get a little bit into we'll get a lot into this. But relying parties often need to know more than simply the user's identity. They're sort of getting away with knowing the user's identity. But what they would like to know in a lot of cases is he there? You know, does he have the mental capacity to make whatever decisions he's going to need to make if he enters my website? Okay. And it turns out that there are a number of different types of advanced capability proofs that a person could do. So, and I'll give you how this fits in with the other ones in a second, but you can just ask the person directly and assume he tells the truth. You could say, "Are you drunk?" Okay, and the person will say yes or no. Okay. Another one is self-screening tests. You can give people cognitive tests, reaction times, look at their reaction times and so forth, and say, you know, this guy is not performing as expected. We think something's wrong. He might be drunk. He might be something else, and we're going to change what he can do on the website. Okay. And then there's something that I call diversions or the funnies, which is an alert that says something, the user can signal an alert condition. You know, somebody's got a gun to his head and is making him log in. Okay. And so that brings us to the sort of standard proof of knowledge response tokens to the RQP. Remember, we're trying to keep privacy in place here. Okay. So the general response tokens people think about is, yay, he got the password right, or nah, he couldn't establish the proofs of knowledge. But with advanced capability testing, you can include things like the user is requesting the site be read-only for me. So imagine he says, I'm drunk. And when he says I'm drunk, he's making a request for read-only access to the website. So he can't actually do anything, but he can see his account balances. He can peruse Amazon to his heart's content. He can use the email web service, but he can't send mail, da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay. Oh my God, yay, but this is a red alert. This is an alert. The user has requested the website to understand that the guy did prove that he had the knowledge he had to have to get into the website, but now he's telling us to do something, to worry about this. Okay. An example, a good example, if you're a Fidelity.com or something like that, is if a user provides a red alert, probably what Fidelity.com should do is allow the guy to do anything he wants to do, but nothing actually happened. So he should be able to transfer the $50 billion to the Russian account, okay, but the money never actually got transferred, okay. And then one of my partners in crime here is a lawyer who's headed the 28 committees of the Science and Technology of the American Bar Association. And she said the other one that would be very useful here is a token that says that's a request for further checks to make sure that this guy should be allowed into your website. Okay, so the guy is doing something and it's signaling to the website that there should be some further checks on this guy. Maybe somebody should call him. And that's just something that the guy, and there are other ones too that we support in the system. There's the classic administrative controls over too many tries at a password and so forth and so on. But those are the ones that are sort of interesting from a advanced capability. So I'm going to give a demonstration of that. And here, unlike the other stuff I showed you, the picture password is completely live, completely done. The text password is a demo right now, but is completely live and done. These are canned examples. But they're concepts, and we haven't completely built the publishing system that allows the user to set these things up for himself. Remember that under the sort of the way this is assumed is the user can construct his own tests. So he can build a picture, and with that system he can say answer it any way he wants, and then he has to be able to associate a particular answer with a particular token response to the relying party. And the relying party, by the way this works, has to allow us to return certain tokens to him. So a relying party can say, no, I only take pass-fail, or I take pass-fail and alert and read-only. Okay. And then the user can set up for that site whatever he wants to set up. But these are all tests that the user can make up for himself, and the relying party has no knowledge that these tests are being done. All he knows is he's getting a request from the user for certain actions to be taken or not to be taken. So I'll give you all a sort of example of this. So this is one that the user could set up for himself. And what happens technically is he's now done the regular proof of knowledge, a text password or something. And now just following it is this additional test he wants done that will modify the token that goes back to the guy. So this is the one where he writes something where he's going to tell the truth. He says, yes, I'm drunk. And the site got the token says read-only access. Okay. If you say, nope, I'm not drunk, it says the guy's got full access. And if the guy says something else, okay, it says no access. Okay. He's probably drunk, he probably misplaced his finger on the thing and so forth and so on. But then there's sort of a KAJE way to do it. And in this one, if he says, yes, I'm drunk, he gets read-only access as before. But if he says, no, I'm not drunk, an alert gets sent to the website. Something's happened, okay? He wants the website to recognize that this is a red alert. Now remember, the user makes these up. So you can do whatever you want to do, but the user is making these things up, okay, and setting these up. So there's no way people will go out and say, well, here's an example, don't ever hit the no button, okay, because you can make up any arbitrary thing to be the alert. And here, if you hit outside of the thing, that's the equivalent of saying, give me full access. So there's an equivalent thing here. I'll do A first. And this is the direct. You want read-only access, and it works exactly the same way. If you say no, and this is the truth one, it gives you full access. If you said yes, it would give you read-only access, and you're knocked outside, it would say no access. This is sort of 2B, and this is a KAJE version of the thing. If you say, no, I don't want read-only access, and the guy's got the gun to their head, it does what it should say, which is it sends an alert to the guy. That's an alert condition. And the guy says, don't ever say no, say no. Okay, I'll say no. And perfect. So it turns out that y'all just saw it. Basically, the KAJE platform can do sort of arbitrary cognitive testing. You need a reaction time capability in it, and so forth and so on. But the stupid picture with the ability to make selections and associate them with a few tokens is a perfectly general platform. And you can do lots and lots of kinds of cognitive testing. Most people don't know that the real father of cognitive testing was a guy named James McKean Cattell, who went to Leipzig, but lived his life at the University of Pennsylvania. I think he died in the 1940 or something, I forget. But he's developed this notion of cognitive testing in an era when physical testing in medicine was, things like measuring blood pressure and stuff was becoming an in thing. And he had this idea that you could do the same kind of measurements on cognitive capabilities, and he spent his life on it. Okay. And so there's a huge literature on this, and there's a lot of information on how you can do cognitive testing and so forth and so on. So one of the things that KAJE is set up with is a catalog of cognitive tests that somebody can perform. So imagine the guy says, well, give me a Miller analogy type analogy test. And if I can perform it in under 4 seconds, I get full access. And if I can't perform it, probably something's wrong with me. Okay. And of course, we have well-known examples of this kind of stuff with monetary consequences. One of the things most people don't know is that pretty much anywhere in the world, the largest transfer of wealth in the United States, for example, but it's pretty much any country, happens in the last 6 months of somebody's life. So if you look at the largest transfer of wealth from one entity to another in the United States, and you say, where does it happen? It turns out it happens in the last 6 months of people's lives. They give away their wealth. This is not after they die. This is in their last 6 months. Okay. You can have horrible consequences of this. Intoxicated is obvious ones that we've just been mentioning. So what's the law around this? Okay. Well, NSTIC sort of has a legal environment. The KAJE Advanced Capability Operating Rules, they're there. They're private legal rules. They're established by contract. They're existing laws and regulations, U.S. and international. But there's a hole in the law. And the hole in the law is international. It's completely international. And it says that if this is a self-test and nobody knows who you are, and you're just doing it to yourself, it requires, the law gives you a pass. That's crazy. Okay. So this is an area that by refactoring the user knowledge from the proof of knowledge, okay, now all of a sudden you and create a privacy wall between the two, okay. Now all of a sudden you get a really, really interesting consequence, which that people can test on things in private, okay, without even letting on who or giving to anybody what the test was that was being done. Under the law, there's also a mechanism, it's called power of attorney or advance directive, where you could have a third party know the tests that are done, but you have to have a legal power of attorney to do it. And then the trick from a technology point of view is the power of attorney has to communicate a test through the relying party, because the relying party knows who the person is. But the relying party can't figure out what the test is that's being run. And then it has to be communicated to the KAJE SAS server, but the SAS server can't know what the test is, because it can't, it's better for it not to know what the test is, too. Okay. And so where you're left with is the browser is the place that the test actually comes into being. Okay. And we're lucky in having done this refactoring of the problem of one guy knows the user and the other guy knows the proof of knowledge, that you get into some fairly simple ways to deal with that. Okay. So a fairly simple way to deal with that is the guy who knows the user has half of a split key. So when the SAS service knows the other half of the split key, and the RQP and the SAS service do not share the key with each other. Okay. They just share it at this request down to the browser, and the browser does the XOR of the key to find the way to decode the test package that's been handed to the browser from the SAS server. Okay. So because you have this refactoring, okay, you can now deliver this really strong form of anonymity where for example, a power of attorney can put in a certificate, a test that's to be handed through the RQP to the KAJE SAS server to be delivered when the KAJE SAS server wants it delivered. And it requires both of those guys to be online, which they pretty much have to be if the guy's logging in. And the actual ability to decrypt the test is only on the user browser. So this is one of the advantages of this refactoring, this really simple refactoring problem. So to summarize this so far, I'm going to hit this, it's going to be perfect. By isolating the usernames from the POCs, we get robustness against database attacks, lots more privacy for the individual, a lot less risk for the requesting party, cool new ways to ask requesting party websites to behave, and opening the door to self-directed private cognitive testing, all of which are desirable properties of a proof of knowledge system. So, it turns out there are no standards for such a SAS server. They don't exist. Okay. So what we're doing is, we'll go into this, but there's an ITF effort called UMA that's run out of MIT Media Lab, and they're ready to set up a subgroup to do a standard for the communication between requesting parties and proof of knowledge suppliers. Oddly, OpenID Connect, if you look at the spec, assumes the username and password are one agent. They don't require it. You could connect up to an OpenID Connect agent, a call to a proof of knowledge, but there's no definition of how you do that in OpenID Connect. The place that looks the closest to what we want to do is OAuth and its child, which is these are ITF standards. UMA, User Managed Access, which is a good candidate for a subgroup here to actually work the standards to get this going, but they don't exist right now. At least I don't see them. So this is, let me try to do this a little bit differently. So this is OAuth and UMA, the way it exists right now. There's a authorization server, a UMA resource server that can provide user managed access resources, client and requesting party services. So this is the so KAJE in one sense would be an authorization, but in this system you'll see that KAJE is just another resource server in the OAuth-UMA world. So all we're really doing is defining a new type of resource server. Okay. And I use the user logins here. These are really administrator logins. Okay. So this is gaining, how do I gain access to the client requesting party servers with a user login? How do I gain access to the KAJE SAS servers with a user login? How do I gain access to a UMA, other UMA resource servers with another user login and authorization server? So this is, in one sense, the classic situation of user authentication creating more login opportunities, okay, which is kind of crazy, okay. So we're multiplying login opportunities. We're trying to solve the problem of logging in by making it harder to log into things, okay, which I think is fun. That was it. So are there any questions?
Okay, well, let's thank the speaker and then we'll take questions.
Yeah.
So to what degree does an external site like an Amazon or Google have to be on board with the new KAJE implementation? Do they have to implement server-side changes, or can this be implemented without requiring it?
So what we've done is, the answer is that there's an API. There's no XML in the API. These are just HTTP redirects. It's a RESTful interface. But the on the website, if you happen to be a WordPress website or a Drupal website, there are certified plugins that make the a 3-minute effort to make a KAJE login live on your website. So it's just, we try to reduce this to making it really easy to do. And then with picture passwords, we did exactly what Microsoft did, which is, and it's amazing, which is we basically say make picture password an option for the person. Okay, we have at least one very large financial institution that's requiring picture password to be a required another two-factor. Picture password by definition is two factors, right? Picture password to be another two factors in addition to a text password for high-value customers. So it's a way that they can, a high-value customer may not have a token, for example, and may find it easier to use a picture password as another set of factors and so forth and so on. So people can do whatever they want. It's set up, they can use the proofs of knowledge any way they want to use them. Any other questions? Jay?
So this is maybe a practical one, but I was just trying it out myself, and I see that there's, you have an interesting twist on picture passwords with different actions that one can do.
Yeah.
Can you show what that looks like?
Yeah, I actually did it a minute ago. All right. So 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 this guy used the interesting twist. So if you do this guy, and the twist is I can either go around the line like this, okay, and you see the little circle, okay, or I can go directly through the line like that, okay. And so a KAJE action would be to go around the line, and then the guy who's shoulder surfing on you does not necessarily know that you're going around the line, okay. Yeah. Yeah. And you know, we did this 2-3 years before Microsoft ever showed what they were doing. So it's amazing if you look at the iPad version, how really similar the. I mean, they use the arrows, and the similarity is just spooky. And by the way, since you're here on a patent situation, I can't remember the name of the company, but there was a big bankruptcy, a huge company, and the guy who had the original core patent on picture password, I think it was 97 or something, that was the bankruptcy attorneys forgot to pay the extension fee on the patent. And so the core use of picture password is free. The patent expired. And both Microsoft and their patents and us and our patents, we recognize that. And so our patents and Microsoft's patents don't speak to each other. Because we both saw that there was this core thing that was out there that was free. And we're completely free to implement it because it was an attorney that failed to pay a fee in New York City. Guess that's it. Okay, I appreciate it.
Thanks again.
Yeah.